And I think again it goes back to them playing politics with law enforcement, and I think if they keep doing this up, they're actually contributing to the Trump's plans to send the National Guard here, because I already see the narrative being built here that we can't rely on one PP, that oh we can't tell them anything because if we do, it's gonna leak out. So you can't trust your local government, your local police department. So we're gonna have to surge this area with National Guardsmen. So unfortunately, this is just going to contribute to what we don't want, which is more National Guard here. When we have a local police department that's more than adequate, adept at solving these problems if given the opportunity to.
So I think the NYPD escorting ICE is not a solution. It's just caused a bigger problem. And I think the reason why is because now we're dragging the NYPD with already low manpower into a mission they can't handle. And we're bringing them in the middle of federal politics, and we're painting a bigger target for the NYPD. We're putting the NYPD to have a bigger target. I don't think that, Marlon, I just don't think that the PC is actually concerned about the safety of ICE, and that's why the NYPD is escorting them. I think it's all part of the agenda, right? The left wants to show why ICE shouldn't be there, and the right wants it to be a complete failure so they could put in a complete military force of National Guard. So I think putting the NYPD there just paints a bigger picture and puts a target on them. Such low manpower, and they're handling missions that they just can't handle. I mean, where's all this amazing technology that we heard from Kaz Daughtry? Why not just have a drone or have some other apparatus, or maybe aviation follow ICE just to monitor it? Why do we actually need NYPD boots on the ground and put them more in the arena where the spotlight is on them? And now we put them in the middle of federal politics. So one thing, John, you said earlier, which I totally agree, and I've been saying that for a long time, the left is always looking for another George Floyd. In order to actually move an agenda, you need chaos. George Floyd, the incident itself, was complete chaos. So when I say they're looking for another George Floyd, it doesn't necessarily have to be that type of incident, but they're looking for chaos to move politics. This is all political theater, no doubt about it. And also, what does this do? The more problems that we have with the NYPD and ICE, it leads to more control. Not more restraint where we pull back. It actually leads to more control. Now we need AI, we need robotics, which I've been saying they're going to move policing towards anyway. I do see that policing is moving completely towards AI and robotics, which is just completely sad. And also, Jessica Tisch has to pander to Zohran Mamdani, who will be here very shortly, showing that the NYPD is failing. It allows for more room for this vision of this community safety-based type of policing, especially once the National Guard comes in to show, a humanitarian effort to it, that, that we're not just men with guns. Once the National Guard does occupy most of the city, we'll have this community-type based policing. So there's an agenda on both sides, and the NYPD is caught right in the middle of it. These political leaders and also the NYPD leadership has put the NYPD in the middle of harm's way by putting them in the middle of federal politics. It's exactly what they do. They put a target on their backs.
And here's the thing, right? Like, first of all, how did these protesters and these reporters know that ICE was going to go out on the raid that day? Now, Scott Mechikowski, who former deputy acting director of New York ICE, he put out a statement yesterday saying that the leaks are occurring right from One Police Plaza. The academics in One Police Plaza inside of Jessica Tisch's own office are leaking this out to anarchist groups and probably, not-for-profits and all these other people that are paying the majority of these agitators and rounding up the useful idiots that they have in their circles to go protest these areas, right? We saw the same thing happen on Canal Street a few weeks ago, right? Same thing happened. Right? They just happened to know that ICE was going to do a raid. How? So, while I think that inside of the police commissioner's office, office and throughout the entire police department, there are leaks. And it's not even that I think, I know for a fact, right? Where does most of our info come from? So I mean, there are leaks throughout the entire New York City Police Department. I don't believe that it's the leaks aren't coming out of ICE directly themselves either. I don't believe that the leaks aren't coming directly out of the Trump administration either, because I think that it's what we're witnessing is manufactured. I think the chaos is manufactured. I think that Marlon's right, and I think that cooler heads should really prevail. Again, I don't believe that there's so much that these people that you're witnessing there. There's a few useful idiots there. There's a few people that will get crazy because they just watch the news and they get crazy over watching people lie to them and being sold garbage. But the majority of those people are being paid. And it's real easy, real simple to identify them. All that needs to happen is that when they actually break the law, what you would do is you would arrest them. You would charge them appropriately. You would go after the people who put those groups together. You would figure out who the ringleaders are. You would charge them appropriately. And then you would do a workup on them and see if, in fact, they're getting paid. And I will certainly guarantee that you're paying their salary. They're taxpayer-funded page agitators, and these incidents are being set up for political theater. And I don't think it's a left or a right issue. I think it's all of them are doing. I think they all want this, right? Trump wants to get National Guardsmen in every city. Why? I don't know, but it's clear as day. I'll play the clip of Pam Bondi telling you they're going to put National Guard throughout all of our cities. Why? I don't know. The right's cheering for it. I'm sitting there and saying, well, why are we paying billions of dollars to the NYPD then? Why don't we just start over them? If the police commission is completely inept and the New York City Police Department is completely inept, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Let's start over. Let's defund the police and let's start over and put a new police department together. Start it from the ground up. Let's start with an elected sheriff. Get rid of Horseface. Get rid of Miranda, get rid of all of them, and let's start a whole new thing in New York City together, right? And then the left is like saying, "Oh my God, the ICE is here. They're kidnapping people." It's like, no, they're actually just enforcing federal immigration law, which every nation on earth does, but yet you believe that America shouldn't. So, I mean, like, we're just being set up for failure on all sides. And then the left politicians are cheering on violence against officers and ICE agents. And they don't even want to be doing what they're doing. You think the SRG team wanted to be there that day? You think ICE wanted to deal with that day? They don't. But they're being set up. They're being used as pawns. And I personally believe it's both sides of the aisle. And I think it's absolutely disgusting. And I think that the media is complicit in it. And I if Marlon alluded to it earlier with this New York Post article, I mean, I don't know, but what the New York Post is basically alleging that the FBI director was apologizing to Tish. It came out and said this: hundreds of rabid anti-ICE protesters clashed with cops in New York City on Saturday, with Police Commissioner Jessica Tish blasting the feds for putting her officers in harm's way, according to sources. So, I'm sorry, she doesn't believe in federal law? The police commissioner of the largest police department in the world doesn't believe that federal law enforcement officers should enforce federal law? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that insane to me? Is this acceptable? Is this a conservative newspaper, the New York Post? Like, is that how you would report that? She blasts the feds for putting officers in harm's way. How about blasting Jessica Tish for putting her own officers in harm's way because the response to that protest was completely inept and endangered every New Yorker, endangered the paid agitators and the useful idiots, endangered the ICE agents, endangered her own cops, endangered the residents, endangered tourists. It's disgrace. This is a disgrace of a title right here. This is a disgrace.
Yeah. See, I think, I think both sides, both ICE and NYPD are too terrified of putting up resistance against the poor policies coming from higher ups. And I think if I was borough chief and this was happening in my borough, I'd be furious. I would be screaming at 1PP, you know. I mean, or even if I was the precinct commander, I'd be angry. You know, you keep letting this happen in my precinct, and you're not doing your job and giving us enough personnel to stop this from becoming a problem. And he's the one who's going to have to deal with it at the community council meetings, at the community board meetings. So it's awful, you know. But I'm gonna say that to your point that I think both sides want this, and I'm saying that because look, we still don't know who's funding the protesters. I mean, we do know it from all the news reports, but we're not being told of it from law enforcement. We're not being told of it by the FBI and the DOJ or the NYPD. And though I've heard that the NYPD has tried to go after some of these groups, that they just couldn't, you know, within the boundaries of the law, and probably Hanshu as well, the Hanshu agreement. But even if you can't go after them legally, why I would have had a press conference and I would have told you, you know, I would have told everybody, including the media, who's funding these people, so that it'll bring media attention and maybe we can get something coming out of Congress or the federal government. And has that happened? No, there hasn't. And the reason that it hasn't is because, again, the people who are funding this are all connected to the people in charge, you know? Like, look, I'm looking at a list of funders of these protesters. One of them is the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. And the thing about Mamdani is actually connected to the Rockefellers, by the way, you know? So the other groups, there's the Tide Foundation, there's Open Society Foundation. Open Society is George Soros apparatus. And George Soros, like I mentioned here before, his number 2 guy is Scott Bessent. It used to be Scott Bessent. And Scott Bessent is now Treasury Secretary connected to Trump. And look, it's also mentioned that money from Qatar has flowed through universities and to protesters. And who's connected to Qatar? Okay. So again, the thing is, it's all connected. Okay. You're never going to hear who's funding this, because if you hear about it, you'll be able to connect the dots and ask questions like, hey, why aren't you doing something? You know who these people are. You know who these funders are.
You've just watched a clip from our live episode. Click the description to watch the full episode. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this.